I was getting beat every day. Like, I don't even think I was getting an education. I was in the hallways most of the time. Kids that grew up from like the West are so open and yangguang. Yeah. I'm like, oh, is it because I'm dark? But then there's another part, 说话不好听或者是太直接.
I guess you can just start from the beginning, just like first impressions of life.
I was super curious. I always wondered, like, well, why? Like, the teachers saw that as I was challenging them. I think I was probably also an annoying child. Like, I just couldn't sit still. And I was kind of rough. Like, I guess I got into fights at school, pushed people around a little bit. I remember the teachers would come for home visits just to see, like, what is going on. My parents thought there was something wrong with me. But then I went to Sunday school. We had a Canadian teacher there. She was like, oh, there's something wrong with your child. She's just not really, like, fit in this environment. So my parents had a lot of friends that were immigrating to Canada. When I was 8, we all went over.
Was that, like, during the missile crisis?
Yeah. So that was when they're like, okay, let's go over just so we have a plan B.
Things might happen here.
Yeah.
Maybe a regime change potentially.
Exactly. My mom, she ended up staying in Taiwan, and my dad ended up raising me. He was your traditional Taiwanese dad, just the guy who brought home presents. And I was like, oh, like, hey, daughter. He struggled. I remember, I'm like, oh, I want niu rou mian. So he, like, boiled hot water, added noodles, and, like, slices of beef. And then made me eat it. And I was like, Dad, this is not, like, and he's like, it is. But even he was like, I don't know what happened. I went to an all-white school. So my parents were really scared. I've spoken to other, say, ABCs. Growing up, they had issues with, like, their lunch boxes being, like, different. My dad would just give me money to go to McDonald's. So that aspect, like, it didn't really go through. I've obviously spoken to other people that have struggled with racism and stuff like that. Yeah. And I am super grateful. I feel like I haven't. There might also be, like, a personality thing as well. I can be quite shong. So
I was gonna fuck with you.
Do you know what I mean? It's more like the vibe that you bring to the table. Like, I remember when COVID was happening, some poor girl was waiting at the bus stop calling her, like, chink and, like, go back to China. And the girl was Taiwanese. My mom was so cute. She was like, you know, if anyone does that to you, you just say, no, I am Taiwanese, you're wrong. I'm like, Mom. If someone said that to me, I would be on top of them, bashing their face in the cement. Like, it made me sad because maybe they're just more introverted, or maybe their English isn't that well. I've met tons of people. I know you're racist, but you're not racist towards me because the banter, whatever.
For some people, like, racism isn't like the look. If you can adjust into what I'm used to, then that's okay.
Yeah.
You're cool.
Which is kind of messed up, right?
Like, living in a mainly white area, did they know what Taiwan was, or did they see you as, like, Chinese or Asian? Or...
It's only in high school more, I was the Asian one. A lot of my friends were, say, Italians or Portuguese. So then we would bond and, like, laugh about, like, our immigrant family. They're beating us with wooden spoon sticks or slippers. And how, like, white Canadians, we call them munja cakes, like, how they're more, like, oh, their families are so chilled.
Now that you mentioned discipline, I had a friend growing up. He was half Taiwanese. I think he saw the freedom that the other, what'd you say? Like,
munja cakes.
The other munja cakes had, like, myself, and was, like, very resentful to his mom. I don't know if, like, you ran into that.
Definitely. A lot of fighting. I think I broke them. I'm not winning a piano, like, first place contest or, like, being part of the mathletes. They knew that wasn't happening. And they were okay with that. Like, they're like, just don't go to jail.
Don't break the law.
Exactly. Like,
now that living here, I definitely understand, like, where she was coming from. I want filial. Just,
well,
like,
it's honor, right?
Yeah.
It's like honor, like, relentlessly. It kills me because it's always about being guai. You always compliment the kids. You hao guai, ni hao guai. But why don't you say, like, ni hao yonggan? You're so curious. That's awesome. Ask more. Want more. Like, think more. I was at the hot springs the other day, and this little girl, she wanted to go in the cold pool, and her grandma, she's like, no, it's too cold. And she went in anyways. I was so proud of her. And because she wanted to learn how to swim, you know? Grandma's like, 来来来,不要不要,很可怕,很危险. They're constantly instilled with fear. And so you grow up with everyone being just, like, paranoid and scared to do anything.
In college, like, what did you study? And then after college, like, what were the things that you kind of did?
I studied fashion. It was a joke. I just partied the whole time. And then after that, I started serving at restaurants. Really fast and easy money. Started traveling. Lived in Italy, Spain, South Africa, and then I decided I want to go into yachting. Save some money and then see the world. Gave myself 5 years. I used my yachting money and went to Le Cordon Bleu. I interned in South America. Then after that, a really good friend of mine in London, he's like, hey, I want to, like, do a vegan startup. It was going well. Then we got hit with COVID. After London, I knew I wanted to be somewhere by the beach. Here's a place where I can start something. Like, I don't have to deal with visa issues and such. Came here and signed 8 years.
8 years?
Yeah.
Okay.
I was freaking out when that
committed.
happened.
Wow.
Yeah, and I've never been that committed because as you can tell, I was quite nomadic before. I was like, oh my fuck, what did I do?
8 years.
8 fucking years.
Oh my God, in 8 years I'm gonna be...
Yeah.
What's it like being back in Taiwan as an adult?
At 6 months, it was hard. Like, I was struggling. I'm not trying to sound like a super feminist or anything like that, but I do still find it super backwards here. Kind of a wanbei. It's hard to manage and like find your position. A lot of things I have to constantly tweak and understand and find the right way to go about without offending anyone, but without also compromising who I am.
Just from what I can imagine, like the pressure as someone that was born here.
Right.
As a foreigner coming over here, like you can say, oh, ni hao. People are like, oh,
yeah.
bang.
Like you, if you were to do it, say, the more North American way of conducting your business, I don't think they would question it. They might even be like, oh, that's so American, that's so cool.
Yeah, it's cool, it's
do you know
progressive.
what I mean? Yeah, it's like, wow, I love it. But for me, it's like, oh, 你怎么可以这样? Had a party and they're like, oh, we want to bring our own wine. I'm like, okay, there's a corkage fee.
Yeah.
And like, well, nowhere else in Taitung has a corkage fee. And I was like, oh, that's okay. I'm like, but we do. But I feel like, say, if you were to, I don't think they would combat it as much. Because they would just naturally be like, oh, because he's different.
Yeah, that's how they do it over there.
Yeah, that's just how they do it over there. So that's what I mean by so many times there's that pick and choose of you're a foreigner, but now you're not a foreigner. Now you're Taiwanese. So when you're conducting business, it's a lot about guanxi. It's like, oh, I know your mom, I know your dad. I'm like, everybody knows my mom. Everybody knows my dad. I know your uncle. I'm like, which one? You need to separate like friendship or emotional things, and this is business. Some people find it very cold because there are no boundaries and everything is just like, oh, we talked about it. It was a verbal thing. I'm like, no, let's have it written down. Let's have emails. Let's have contracts. But here it's very like, oh no, if we write contracts and stuff, 伤人情.
Who do you like hang out with in Taitung?
In the beginning, it was just foreigners. Now I have some Taiwanese friends, and it's awesome.
In those moments, do you kind of like wish that you'd stayed here as a kid?
No.
No.
No. I was getting beat every day. Like, I don't even think I was getting an education. I was in the hallways most of the time.
So if you were to ever have kids one day, would you ever consider raising them in Taitung?
I would, because I think Taitung is an amazing place for kids, just with the nature. But I would still want them to, at some point, live in the Western world.
Since you are Taiwanese, like people pressuring you into like getting married and having kids, or is that
all
something
the time?
that you're...
No, it happens all the time, nonstop. It's all we're here for, right? Is to be married and give babies. It's all we're good for.
Baby machines?
We're just baby makers, and if you're not, then you're not good for anything. What are we good for? Like, hello?
Go into the ocean.
Yeah, just off yourself. Like,
how has your living in the West affected your views on like 孝顺?
Like my friends out West talk about like, oh, like how we love our parents. It's not like here where it's like I have to take care of my parents. And I don't think it's ingrained in me. I feel because I'm an only child, there is definitely a pressure. Like I want to be the one to be like, oh, I just bought you a house.
Yeah.
Here's a Mercedes. Like it's something I would love to do, but so far from that. Then my parents are funny because they're very Taiwanese, where they're like, we want to give you everything, and like I do not want your support financially because I'm so Western in that way. It's weird to be like taken care of by my parents. Had that been the case, I feel like I wouldn't do half the things I have done, because I think you push yourself when you're kind of in corners, or you have to figure out like what's your potential, right? But if you're sitting like comfortably and you're like cash is coming in, then
there's no motivation.
There's no motivation to do anything. Just chill at home.
Yeah, so like the idea of living with your parents at this point,
inconceivable. Like it's not an option. And I think that's the West, because like once you're 18, you're out of the house. They obviously didn't want me out of the house, but I was like, no, I'm out. Like, of course.
Bye.
Yeah, later. But here, it's a cultural thing too. I think it goes with the 孝顺. It goes with 你要养家. Some of my cousins are 40 and they're getting 50 grand allowance a month. I'm like, damn. It's sweet. Like sometimes when I'm working super hard, I'm like, that sounds nice, kind of.
Could be surfing right now. And,
yeah, you know, like fuck this place. I remember once I had a group of like 20, 60 to 80-year-olds come in. Like they were like proper, like from Taitung.
Real Jiangbei.
Yeah, you know, and
sure.
they were speaking Taiwanese to me. They ordered what they ordered. I remember just being like fucking dying in the kitchen because it's hot. It was summer. And then
no aircon.
There's no aircon. And I was like silent. And I was like, what the fuck? What happened to them?
Yeah.
So I came outside and they're all just so cute and like eating tacos. It gives me chills now thinking about it. I'm just like, okay, this is the shit. This is why I'm doing it. Or else they would have just been like, I'm good with Taiwanese food.
Sticking in that one box.
Yeah. I really like to pull people out of boxes, I guess is what I'm saying. Like, no, you will not stay in a box.
Taking
yeah,
that.
fuck your box.